Thank you everyone for joining us today, and welcome to the Sydney branch webinar on Data Management Fundamentals Refresher with David Wiebe. Now, before we start, it is important to acknowledge that all of us, although united by technology, are physically on the traditional lands of the Aboriginal people. So we would like to pay our respects to the elders, past and present, as well as emerging. This same respect is extended to all indigenous people who are watching from around this nation as well as overseas. We had some registrations from Malaysia as well, so welcome if anyone is there from Malaysia. The DAMA webinar tonight will be recorded. So if you wish not to be recorded, please ensure that your video and sound remains off. For those of you who have any questions, please type your questions in the Q&A tab in Zoom, and we will, time permitting, try to answer as many questions as possible. So with data being the focus, and it is so much in discussion today, it has become very important that the data literacy and the knowledge of data is promoted, and that's what we as DAMA do. And we have David with us today. I'm going to introduce you to our speaker, David Wiebe. He's the DAMA Australia president. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
He's also in data architect and managing partner of Robinson Ryan. So previously, Data was a contributor to Standards Australia 2006 AS4590, interchange of client information, and has also worked with IBM's IFW standard for financial services. David is the co-author of the Queensland Government Information Portfolio Framework as well. And he has over 25 years of experience in architecture, management, systems development, and integration. And David has extensive experience with data modeling, service-oriented architecture, business process management, database management, and software development, having designed and implemented many projects for large-scale development. And he's very active in the field of data management, and he's always willing to share his knowledge. So once again, warm welcome, David, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Varun, for that very nice welcome. And yes, good evening and welcome to everyone out there for another one of DAMA Australia's webinars on data management. And it's true, data is on everyone's lips. And so I felt it was time to refresh our understanding and remind ourselves also of the terminology we use, we being the Data Management Association, but the terminology we speak when we speak about data managing data. The idea of using a framework to manage data is critical. And the world leader in data management frameworks is DAMA International with their data management body of knowledge that describes the framework. It includes the data management functions, data management professionals' practice in the delivery of data management capabilities. So it's important to remember that understanding data leads to understanding information, just as much as understanding information can lead to understanding the data. And understanding the data management terminology is a fundamental step towards understanding each other when we start to talk about data and how to manage it so we can use it with confidence. Now, let's first put data in its place. Now, you may have heard of the DIKW model before. In the center, we have data. These facts we collect and categorize and give them definitions and formats. And surrounding that, we have the idea of bringing data together to present information or data in context, like person identifiable information. We use information, we look at it at different perspectives, we recognize patterns in data and interpret their meaning. An example would be the code case curve we've been watching, thinking that we can interpret its meaning. When we see the information forming patterns, we know what might be coming. We are gaining knowledge, things to remember and reuse. And ultimately, based on our knowledge and experience, We are supposed to gain wisdom to take the appropriate action when presented with the data. What gets chosen to do next depends on the decision makers, their ethics, influenced and supported by an organization's culture. A culture whose responsibility for what is permitted ultimately lies in the boardroom. We're here to talk about data management, and the DMBOK is about data management. It's that stuff in the middle, getting the fundamentals right, getting the fundamentals understood. So when you are practicing, so you know what you're doing when you're practicing in order how to leverage this data asset that you're collecting. So who does data management? And what kind of data management calls these people to their specialties? When thinking about data, using the DAMA wheel helps to remind us of the specialist knowledge areas involved with managing data. In the digital world, if you can't remember something you once knew, it means either you forgot to store the data, or you can't find the data. Maybe you don't know where you put it. Maybe you forgot you had it, or someone else had it, but you never looked at it, and now they've left. So now we have to start managing this data. And so to help you remember all this data stuff, we need a framework and a group of people collaborating and delivering the best possible data. So to help you curate this highest quality data asset possible, let's run through the knowledge areas again and see what traits might gravitate towards practicing each specialty. If you are unsure of how or where you, a budding data management professional, could contribute, and to do so in a role that you really enjoyed and found rewarding, well, could it be that certain tribes of people gravitate towards certain specialities? Could it be like there's an alignment of specialists found in the heavenly stars? Let's investigate as we shift perspectives and look at DAMA's data management framework through a different lens. Perhaps where you sit amongst the stars could help you decide what you are best suited to do. So this presentation I bring you could be called The Search for Data Management Professionals Amongst the Stars. Everyone was born under a star sign, and whether you take any notice of what the zodiac is telling us or not, it is a known set of data, a collection that gives us information about the context that is the zodiac, with measures that define boundaries and lists of characteristics and behaviors associated with each of the star signs. So for the sake of sharing and understanding, I hope you don't take offense to my use of the language found in the glossary of astrology alongside the glossary of data management. So where did it all begin? And this could be a picture of where it all began, for it is a star nursery, and those are little baby stars in there. The 11 knowledge areas, plus the overall holistic data management speciality, aligns nicely to the 12 constellations of the zodiac. So let's run through them and start off with data management. Data management is the provision of intention, planning, coordination, commitment, and leadership required to derive value from data. It's a way of working, a way of thinking, collaboration, a coordination of many parts. It's about recognizing people who contribute, knowing what's important, knowing what's working, and what's not. Now, let's see whose stars line up with the overall data management. And Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is known as the gatherer of information, and it seems hardly surprising that it aligns with data management. Data management is the development, execution, and supervision of plans, policies, programs, and practices that deliver control, protect, and enhance the value of data and information assets. Its goals are understanding and supporting the information needs of the enterprise and its stakeholders. It's about preventing unauthorized or inappropriate access, ensuring integrity, quality, privacy, and confidentiality of data, and ensuring data is used to add value. Data management professionals recognize three types of data. Reference data, those lists of valid values that we keep to group similar data. Master data, that register of things we collect data about, ideally only having one copy of, like a person or organization or product. And event data, those happenings that occur that drives the creation of data. A data management specialist needs to go out into the business and see the data operating for themselves in order to understand and see how it is being managed. And Sagittarius has a trait of a data management specialist because, like I said, they are a gatherer of information, and they have philosopher traits as they ponder the various states they find the data in. They are set for the mental challenges faced when deciphering which aspects of data management are needed to improve efficiency. Their high energy keeps them constantly moving through the organization, promoting data management practices. Sagittarius is constantly reinventing themselves, finding ways for people to understand the message of data management. They are an exciting and appreciative lover of data who enjoys pleasing his stakeholders. Our Sagittarian here, George Santayana, was a philosopher who said, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." He began his philosophical writings with the sense of beauty that connected an understanding of beauty with the ideas that are permanent and real. The beauty of data management, working with real and permanent activities. Maybe specializing in data management is for you. Next, we have data governance. Data governance is defined as the exercise of authority and control over the management of data assets. Data governance function guides all other data management functions by ensuring that data is being managed according to policy and best practices. It is the oversight of data management, making sure data management is being done as well as possible. How bad do you really want quality data? Now, who sits amongst the stars, these data governance specialists? Libra. It is Libra who is suited to the practice of data governance, as Libra knows how to convince people of the importance of practicing data governance. Data governance provides direction and oversight for the data management by establishing a system of decision rights over data that accounts for the needs of the enterprise. It's not dictating to the specialist areas what they need to do. The specialists will know what needs to be governed. The data governance office will help make sure it happens. Practicing data governance is an ongoing process with business as usual activities that involves measuring costs and value. Data governance principles are to be business-driven and have a shared responsibility and operate the capability based on a framework like the DMBOK framework. Data governance ensures the data strategy aligns with the business strategy. Practicing data governance takes a special pair of hands. Not everyone is always going to agree with why data governance needs to be done, but having a system in place makes sure that you have a chance at providing the best possible data to make the best decisions. This is the outcome a data governance professional aspires to create. This data governance system with policies and procedures and people in roles are responsible for the management of data. Our Libra, Mahatma Gandhi, employed non-violent resistance to lead the successful campaign for India's independence from British rule. He created change where change through practices was not thought to be possible. Happiness, his quote, "Happiness is when you think, what you say, and what you do are all in harmony." Maybe specializing in data governance is for you. Next is the knowledge area of data architecture. Data architecture is the art and science of building data solutions. Now, architecture refers to an organized arrangement of component elements intended to optimize the function, performance, feasibility, cost, and aesthetics of an overall structure or system. Classic architecture gobbledygook. But that's fundamentally architecture. Data architectures are out there busy delivering artifacts that describe the data intentions within an enterprise, while promoting collaboration, recognizing those with the data mindset, and identifying where data skills are needed. So where in those celestial heavens would one might find these data architecture specialists? And Scorpio. Scorpions are passionate about being able to deliver outcomes. Data architecture is fundamental to data management because most organizations have more data than individual people can comprehend. So it's necessary to represent data at different levels of abstraction so that it can be understood and people can make decisions about it. Data architecture defines the blueprints for managing data assets. It's done at different levels within an organization. It can be done at the enterprise level, at a business domain level, or even at a project level, especially at a project level. Its goals are to bridge business strategy with technology execution, to strategically prepare the organization for the digital economy. Data architecture identifies data movement, storage, and processing requirements. It designs data structures and derives plans to uplift the data management capability. It's here where the enterprise data model is created and data flow is designed. Data architecture is also part of the enterprise architecture. Scorpions are passionate, serious about standards, patterns, and reuse. They love leveraging a good reference model. They can be stubborn, can dig their heels in when technology or application choices are resulting in a deviation of the data strategy roadmap. They are resourceful. They find ways to visualize data, resolve problems, fulfill needs, support decisions, and plan for the future. They're brave. They stand up and defend the upfront effort required to plan and understand what's really needed before you start building. Our scorpion, Bill Gates, has definitely shown the world his data architecture trait of being passionate and resourceful and brave. I'm sure the world is in a better place for him being able to resolve problems, and we can better manage data because of him and his work. Maybe specializing in data architecture is for you. The next cog in the DAMA wheel is data modeling and design. Data modeling and design is the process of discovering, analyzing, representing, and communicating data requirements in a precise form called a data model. This knowledge area is about providing a common vocabulary around data and creating data models that serve as a primary communications tool during a project. Now, searching the stars, where might you find these data modeling and design specialists? Pisces. Pisces recognize the needs of people and organizations, and they can see these data needs from many different perspectives. Data modeling is a critical component of data management. The data modeling process discovers and documents how data fits together. I say that data modeling actually draws pictures of data, something that we can all recognize. The goals of data modeling and design are to confirm and document understanding of the data requirement and to make it easier to understand the data. In order to make data easy to understand, the data modeler uses data models in different levels of abstraction to explain the look of data. Data modelers and the business need to communicate, and they do so through conceptual data models. Data modelers also communicate with system designers through logical data modelers, and they communicate to database administrators and service administrators using physical data models. Our Pisces, Mikhail Gorbachev, the last president of the Soviet Union, which wrapped up on the 25th of December in 1991, showed us these traits. He was affectionate, demonstrated a desire to please in the same way a data modeler has a desire to please the consumer of their designs, ensuring it's fit for their purpose. He recognized specific needs of the people that encompass many different perspectives. Like a data modeler must consider the different perspectives that need to be presented within the scope of a data model. Being wise, knowing what is best, depending on whether he was designing a staging database or a message interface or a data cube. The programs Gorbachev created were works of art, practical, elegant solutions. A good data model tends to be elegant. Gorbachev's programs, as you may recall, domestically, one called Glasnost, which was openness, allowed for the freedom of speech and press, while his Perestroika restructuring sought to decentralize the economic decision-making to improve efficiency. So openness allows for the recognition of the complete set of facts to be captured, and to instigate a search for the missing facts in the information. Restructuring brought accountability and responsibility for doing what head office wants those to do who are actually doing the job. Like, here's the standard for data, now apply it to your designs. Maybe specializing in data modeling and designs is for you. Next, we have data storage and operations. Data storage and operations is the design, implementation, and support of stored data to maximize its value. Data operations provides support through the data lifecycle, from planning for to disposal of data. Now, who in the stars might gravitate towards becoming a data storage and operations specialist? Aries, with the traits of high expectation and exacting work, make them ideal characters for practicing data storage and operations. So data storage and operations includes two sub-activities: database support, which is making sure that the database is performing as it should, and database technology support, which is defining the technical environment as well as administering and resolving issues related to database technology. The goals and principles of data storage and operations are to manage the availability of the data in the data stores and to ensure the integrity of the data remains intact. This is where one manages database performance and recognizes automation opportunities. It's important to always have reuse in mind and to apply best practices and use standards to support your requirements. And in the stars, we have Aries, traits of strong-willed and exacting work. They can manage availability, ensure integrity, and keeping the data systems running 24/7. They have high expectations of self and situations. They are managing the performance of the database. They believe they can solve any problem. They have the tools available. They create processes that get reused. They employ standards and utilize best practice. They are ambitious, risk takers, like data scientists pushing the limits in what can be done with data, disrupting the status quo. Aries are passionate and often impatient, always focusing on deadlines, plans, and milestones. They are devoted and loyal to family and friends, especially the data family. Our Aries, Ronaldinho, a Brazilian footballer, former professional footballer, was the ambassador for the Barcelona Football Club. He's often considered one of the best players of his generation, and regarded by many as one of the greatest of all time. Having high expectations, being ambitious and devoted, he achieved this level by leveraging his traits early in life. He started playing for a club at age 7. Maybe specializing in data storage and operations is for you. Now we come to data security. Data security is the planning, development, and execution of security policies, procedures. It's to provide proper authentication and authorization, access, and auditing of data and information assets. Now let's see whose stars aligns with a data security specialist. Capricorn. Capricorns are known to be problem solvers, and closed-mouthed when it comes to sharing. Data security is there to protect information assets in alignment with privacy and confidential regulations, contractual agreements, and business requirements. Enable this appropriate access, enable compliance with regulations. They ensure privacy and confidentiality. They take a collaborative enterprise approach to managing security and reduce risk to data by reducing the exposure to it. Now, our Capricornian is Theodosius the Great. Now, he was a Roman Empire way back in 379 to 395. His death marked the start of the Middle Ages. As emperor, he was responsible for managing the security of the empire and had a whole of empire approach with a simple policy. When defending the empire, the Roman policy for dealing with invaders was simple: destroy them or drive them out. Unfortunately, his resources were not sufficient to execute this whole of empire approach. It was impossible, which was unlike his predecessors. He recognized collaboration as a means to provide what was needed: peace. Peace that gave people the access to what they needed. He was a problem solver. From the beginning of the 5th century, as the Romans found themselves with the impossible task of defending the borders and dealing with unruly federates within, he created a treaty was established for these autonomous allies of the empire south of the Danube and still within the empire's borders. They were given lands and allowed to remain under their own leaders, which was a grave departure from the Romans' ways. This turn away from traditional policies was accommodated and had enormous consequences for the Western Empire. It was the end of the empire. Now, maybe not a totally successful example of security, but it certainly covers the relevant issues about managing security. Maybe specializing in data security is for you. And now we move to data integration and interoperability. Data integration and interoperability is the movement and consolidation of data within and between data stores, applications, and organizations. Integration is about consolidating data into consistent forms, and interoperability is the ability for multiple systems to communicate with each other. Now, look to the stars in the skies as those that share the traits of data integration and interoperability are Leo. Now, Leo likes to be in the spotlight, demonstrating their worth, being the one to call on when the seemingly impossible task of moving data needs to be delivered. Data integration and interoperability focuses on transformation and integrating data from source systems to data hubs and onto target systems. The goals and principles are to provide data securely from source to target, to lower cost and complexity of achieving this task, to be able to identify meaningful events that instigate this movement of data, and have an enterprise perspective over the task at hand. and also to ensure that the business experts are involved. The most common method for data integration is to extract the data, transform the data, and then load the data. Where data interoperability lends itself to a service-oriented architectures that create systems that can share the same data. Our Leo, J.K. Rowling's, is stable, loyal, consistent. Take her delivery of the Harry Potter series. The data remain true. Vivacious, theatrical, and passionate, they love a big show. How did you get all that data in there? Oh. They're ambitious, determined, and brave, not daunted by the size of the task. Integration and interoperability is no simple matter. Leos are always showing friendliness and politeness to everyone, always needing to get along, as you never know when you'll need to integrate with them. A Leo creates stable and reliable interfaces that are elegant, simple, yet are solving complex situations. How is Harry getting away from that dragon? How are you going to get that data from that system into that one? Perhaps it will be by requesting messages, politely requesting messages. Maybe specializing in data integration and interoperability is for you. Now we look at document and content management. Document and content management is the controlling of the capture, storage, access, and use of data and information stored outside of relational databases. The focus is on maintaining integrity and enabling access to unstructured information. Once again, cast your eyes to the stars and search for our document and content management specialists. Cancer is a loyal and dependable, focusing on maintaining integrity and enabling access to information. Now, document and content management is roughly equivalent to data operations management for relational databases. The drivers for document and content management include regulatory compliance, also an ability to respond to litigation or e-discovery requests. Its goals are, like I say, to comply with legal obligations and customer expectations, and principles to ensure effective and efficient storage, retrieval, and use of information. They're also there to ensure integration between structured and unstructured content can occur. Now, records management is included in this knowledge area, and it follows a set of principles of accountability, assigning senior executives to be accountable, integrity, suitable guarantee of authenticity and reliability, protection, ensuring the protection of the records, compliance, making sure practices comply with the laws and policies, availability, ensuring the timely and efficient and accurate retrieval of information, retention, retaining the information for an appropriate amount of time, because disposition, practicing the disposal of records when it's appropriate, and transparency, knowing what to do is available. So to know what to do is available, as well as understanding what to do. Now, our Cancer is Debbie Harry, yes, a musician, entertainer. She is recognized as one that understands the importance of keeping information records to retain knowledge. She has been quoted as saying, "We probably, as primitive people, made music before we actually had language. And that's where language comes from. The vocals, notes, pitch, rhythm, the assembling of all these into meaning, keeping this information safe for future generations." Maybe specializing in document and content management is for you. And now we have reference and master data. In any organization, certain data is required across business areas, processes, and systems. And it is the organization and its customers that will benefit if this data is shared. Reference and master data management is about managing shared data. It's about creating a reliable source of truth, recognized as the authoritative standard collection of either reference data, again, these classification lists and values, and master data, the lists of concepts and metadata of interest. I wonder where in the heavens we might find our reference and master data management specialist. Taurus, they're known for their reliable, determined, loyal, and honest nature, managing our shared data with the highest integrity, keeping the source of truth safe with the highest integrity. Now, reference and master data management is, like I say, is all about managing shared data. And the benefits of data shared is when the business is referencing only one customer list or a parts list or a common set of geographic location codes, or even the org structure or delivery types, or accounting cost center codes, and all this other data that we use to run the business. People using data generally assume a level of consistency exists across an organization until they see disparate data. In large organizations, as a result of projects, initiatives, mergers and acquisitions, and other business activities, this may result in the same data being in multiple systems executing essentially the same functions, albeit isolated from each other. These conditions inevitably lead to inconsistencies in data structure and data values between systems. This variability increases costs and risks. Both can be reduced by the management of master and reference data. Reference and master data capabilities lead to higher quality data. Its goals are to share the data across the enterprise, provide the authoritative source of data, and lower the cost and complexity of data integration. With principles of data belongs to the organization, business data stewards are accountable, and having controlled change makes them successful in managing reference and master data. Strong with great stamina for physical and mental tasks, resolving conceptual expectations with real working solutions is something a Taurus can do. Sure, they can be stubborn and unwilling to give ground because there is a process to follow, mate. They do love the finer things in life: single copies of data, clean profile reports, and appreciates the beauty of a data model that has been drawn a picture of each of the reference and master data subject areas that they're managing. Our tourist here, Queen Elizabeth, well, she's about managing shared data, and she also makes it the authoritative source. She's lowering the cost and complexity of trading goods with other countries that became a part of the Commonwealth. She was ensuring it is clear about who owns the data, the organization, the Commonwealth, and she's the head. There are a number of governor generals accountable for ensuring all reaches of the Commonwealth were governed, and individuals responsible for delivering the agreed state of the shared data. Maybe specializing in reference and master data is for you. Data warehousing and business intelligence is the design, implementation, and support of stored data to maximize value. Operations provides support through the data lifecycle from planning for to disposal of information. The concept of data warehouse emerged in the 80s as technology enabled organizations to integrate data from a range of sources into a common data model. Integrating data promised to provide insight into operational processes and open up new possibilities for leveraging data to make decisions and create organizational value. Data warehouses were seen as a means to reduce the proliferation of decision support systems, most of which drew on the same core enterprise data. Now, where in our constellation might we locate these data warehouse and business intelligence specialists? We find them in Virgo. Trademark Virgo qualities such as cleanliness, fidgetiousness, easy for me to say, which means excessively particular, critical, or demanding, and it has attention to tiny details. All these traits, having all these traits would make them ideal candidates to work in the data warehouse and business intelligence space. Now, enterprise data warehouses promised a way to reduce data redundancies and improve the consistency of information and enable an enterprise to use its data to make better decisions. The goal of data warehouse and business intelligence are pretty simple. Manage the capability and enable an improved business analysis. Their principles are around focusing on business goals. Make sure it serves the priorities of the enterprise and solves business problems. Also, to start with the end in mind. What is it that will meet your needs? Let business priorities and scope of data delivery in BI drive the creation of the data warehouse content. You want to promote transparency and self-service, and this means keeping your stakeholders informed about the data and the processes by which it's integrated into the data warehouse. You need to build metadata with the data warehouse. And this is talking about the additional data relevant to the data being collected, like what was the source of the data and how was this data calculated? Remembering that metadata is just more data. We also have a principle of collaborating with business initiatives like data quality uplifts and introducing data governance capabilities or metadata management functions. Virgos are suited to data warehousing and BI because Virgos want to assist at the practical level. They are kind and gentle and supportive of business needs to discover insights. They use their incredible intellect and resourcefulness to problem solve. How does one integrate data born from different species of application? They want to assist at the practical level, delivering what has been asked for, and repeatedly I'll say Virgos are analytical. They like looking into data cubes, blending data sources to gauge other perspectives, to take another step forward, possibly tripping over an insight. Virgos are purists. There's a reason it works like clockwork, because there's no sense doing it unless you're going to do it right. Realizing that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, the intricate alignment of these algorithms is contained within our data warehouse and business intelligence solutions. Now, our Virgo over here, Louis XIV of France, also known as Louis the Great or Sun King, well, he was King of France in 1643 until his death in 1715. He reigned for 72 years and 110 days, the longest of any monarch in a major country in European history. And he started at the age of 4 years and 8 months. Now, obviously, he wasn't doing much in those first years, but when he gained control of his reign, he continued policies regarding governance and sought to eliminate feudalism from all parts of France. And what that's all about, of course, is the nobility held all the lands from the crown in exchange for military service. And vassals were in turn tenants of these nobles. The peasants were obliged to live on the Lord's land, give him homage and labor, and share the produce in exchange for military protection. All these assets belong to the nobility, a small part of the organization, only they benefited. Now, King Louis XIV, he started sharing these assets. He started passing data across the organization. Maybe specializing in data warehousing and business intelligence is for you. And now, metadata management, one of my favorites. The knowledge area that frightens the unskilled. Now, metadata is more than data about data. Metadata provides the primary means of capturing and managing organizational knowledge about data. Metadata describes the data itself, the concepts the data represents, and the connections between the data and the concepts. It does this by classifying it and recognizing properties. So who in the stars is suited to deal with this capability of metadata management? Aquarius. Aquarius are humanitarians and will take up just causes as it allows them to care for everyone's data needs. Metadata management is about managing the catalog of data, recording what is known about the data of interest to the organization, and enabling the tracking of risk associated with critical data. What are the business drivers? It's to increase confidence in data. It's also to improve communication and to support regulatory compliance. If you're doing data management, then you are actually doing metadata management as well. If you don't know you're doing it, then it's likely you're probably not doing it that well, because metadata management is truly fundamental. And for Aquarius, they're progressive, extending our understanding of data. They're uncompromising, enforcing a reliable structure that supports our understanding of data. They like intelligent conversation, discussing ways of tapping the metadata repository to drive the automation of procuring high data quality. They are a good listener. They need to hear all the properties that are of interest. And they dislike limitations. There's always a way to describe the data you need. And able to see without prejudice from both sides. And this is because metadata has all the data and looks to the world as a place full of possibilities. There's no end to the number of levels of abstraction or details, with permutations of structures carving out representations of data assets as they grow in value and completeness. Now, our Aquarian, Charles Darwin, knows metadata. He used it to describe what he saw on his 5-year journey studying marine invertebrates. And from his observation, he conceived the theory of natural selection, a progressive, uncompromising naturalist that was able to see without prejudice. Maybe specializing in metadata management is for you. And finally, we come to data quality. Where would we be without it? Data quality is about managing data to make it valuable, to make the data reliable and trustworthy, to make the data of high quality. Now, who is remaining in that constellation that has the disposition to engage data quality? It might be Gemini. Data quality in data management is considered as important as Gemini is to the zodiacs. Yes, data quality is about getting data to be reliable, trustworthy, of high quality. It's also about addressing the lack of understanding about the effects of poor quality data on an organization's success. Data quality is relevant because the promise of digital solutions being created to deliver business needs rests in the assumption that the underlying assertions about the data is that the data itself is reliable and trustworthy, or in other words, that is of high quality. And then they find out that the data in that report really didn't come from a reliable source. The data quality goals include having a governed approach to monitoring for data quality, having standards and specifications that are utilized and followed, making sure that we measure, monitor, and report those things that are critical, and principles of each link in the data chain as it moves through the organization. Each link should ensure that the data output is of high quality. And also the principle of embedding data quality practices in business processes. Now, Geminis are quick to recognize that data can be both good and bad quality. Knowing what is important to some may be unimportant to others, and yet be the exact same data. Now, our Geminis here are an interesting bunch because Geminis are versatile at reusing business rules, adaptable, conforming to new situations, the arrival of new data in an unrecognizable state. They share knowledge, understanding, and metrics. They're a communicator. They are the communicator of the zodiac. Sociable, enjoys variety as well as change, enjoys the variety of the many dimensions of data quality. They rely on mental analysis more than gut feelings. Well, most of them do. Now, maybe specializing in data quality is for you. And that's a run through of the knowledge areas contained in the Embark. This body of knowledge, the framework, is there for helping you manage data and to help you contribute more understanding to business questions. I hope you can see that there is a place for all of us in this world of data management. And if you're attracted to data, then maybe there's a specialty that you naturally gravitate towards, not depending on your star sign, but your own self. So what are you attracted to? And finally, don't forget to come visit us. And yes, this is what we look like on the browser. Not the prettiest, not practicing visualization, that's for sure. But if you want to help out and be a part of DAMA Australia Association, then hit the Contact Us link and let us know. We can always use another pair of hands. Also, you'll see there the URL for the CDMP website. The CDMP, Certified Data Management Professional, is an international recognition that you have demonstrated your understanding and skill in managing data. Head there for more information. So I hope you found this presentation helps you remember the fundamentals to consider when it comes to managing data. Thanks very much for listening.
Thanks, David. It was a wonderful presentation, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would be starstruck. An interesting fact that there are 1 billion trillion stars in the observable universe. So, that's something to, take note. Okay, so we have some question and answers which have come in. So let's start off. Actually, there were a few in the chat. I would request anyone who has put their questions in the chat to please put them in Q&A, because that way we have it's easy to answer. Okay, there's an anonymous attendee who has asked, how would you describe a data governance starter kit?
How would you describe a data governance starter kit?
Yes.
Well, so because data governance, like I say, being at the center of the wheel is about understanding the control and management of all these other knowledge areas. I think it starts about in recognizing who's responsible, who's going to be accountable for implementing governance practices, and then from there finding I guess your stakeholders who practice in the other knowledge areas to leverage this governance practice to ensure that you are doing whatever you do, whether it's data warehousing or data architecture or whatever, to the best possible level that you can do based on proven methodologies and standards. So starter kits, it's a never heard it put that way before, but I guess that's a quick answer.
Yeah, thank you. And there is more guidance on how you should go about setting up data governance in DMBOK. It is actually the center of everything, and it talks a lot about how you can increase the maturity over time as well. So another question, I'll actually go through one of the questions which was posted in the comments. This is from Elizabeth McKenzie. So why is it that data governance is so hard to put together? Everyone agrees we should have it, but no one wants to do it.
Yes, it's so hard. I think in a couple of angles here. So it's probably seems hard because there's no leadership at the highest levels in the organizations that recognize how important it is.
Absolutely.
Okay? So I would say that's the first one. And then the second one thing is this misunderstanding that the data governance people are the ones responsible for coming up with all these policies and procedures and practices for all the knowledge areas. And I think I said it in the presentation, it's not about them coming up with these things. It's the data architects knowing what needs to be done. It's the data warehouse people that know what's to be done. And together you collaborate and recognize what are the things that are most important that we're going to monitor to ensure we are now doing governance and ensuring the best possible data.
Yeah, absolutely, David. And I would just like to add a little bit that, when you're looking at data governance, I do not see that it is very hard to put together, but you have to make a start. Once you make a beginning, then you will find that, there is a lot of value in it. First thing is to define the use case of why you would need it, and then, have a proper business case, and then follow it up and do the benefits realization as well to see the benefits that you're getting from data governance. Okay, the next question is from Durai Swami Srinivasan. So does big data bring any additional dimension to the data management? If so, what are they?
Yeah, no, that's true. So you might recall that the DM book has, I think it's 17 chapters, and we talked about 12 things. So from my perspective, the big data challenge or the new technology, that really all sort of lives over in data warehousing and business intelligence, because again, it's about how do we collect all this data in an area that that we want to be able to either mine or analyze to find these insights. So the parallels are very close. Different technologies is I guess is the other slight difference. But and then what was the other side in terms of data science?
Does big data bring any additional dimension to the data management? If so, what are they?
Yeah, no. So I would say, I think 12 is enough. We go and stick it in with data warehousing and business intelligence.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, please, can you provide a high-level explanation of service-oriented architecture? That's from Mark.
Mark, yeah, thanks, pal. Okay, so if you can imagine that every time you wanted every time you wanted some data, or whether you wanted to interact with data, I wanted to store something, or I wanted to retrieve something, I wanted to update something. The idea is that you call this service, and a service is specially designed to say, oh yes, I can update this person's name. And that's all that service does. Now, when you finish designing that, it goes through and figures out what table and which database needs to be updated and knows what data to go through. But the beauty thing about it is that this little person name service can probably be wrapped up with another service that could update other details about a person. And then you start stitching these services together to make them into more business type services. Like just adding a person in the first place would leverage these other services. So really it's like a service. It's a function that you're calling to do something, and behind the scenes, it's actually managing the transport of the data and the storage of the data into the databases.
Thanks, David. And I'll again add a little bit,
Please.
as an example, you can think of service-oriented architecture where you have another person or another agency or another service doing some logical piece of business activity and to realize a specified outcome. So just for example, if you're running a company, you do not need to have a mailing service, and you can use Australia Post as a service-oriented architecture. In a service-oriented architecture, you would send it to Australia Post, which is a black box for you, but you don't have to be aware of the service's inner workings, but there's an interface. You go, you make a payment, and you provide a label of address and everything, and you do not know what are the underlying services that Australia Post uses, but it does give you business outcome where your goods are delivered to the customer or to the recipient. Okay. The next question is from Malgor Zata. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Malgor Zata is asking, has the data management framework as presented in DMBOK the same relevance in the world of increasingly powerful technological capabilities brought about by AI, for example, machine learning? Does our thinking about data need to change because of these developments?
Right. So I guess there's a bit of philosophical in there, but I guess ultimately what we're trying to make sure, if you want to do AI, for example, or machine learning, ultimately the projects that I've seen, they spend a lot of time trying to fix data that goes into their machine learning systems or their AI algorithms. And because they spend all this time trying to clean up the data, it's a demonstration that they don't have the fundamentals of managing data under control in the first place. So if we want to advance quickly in this world of AI and machine learning and stuff, our ability to manage data at the fundamental level is critical. The speed of development in AI will increase, automation will increase, confidence will increase, high quality data will be there because you're managing data. The car will stay in the road because it doesn't have, if a driverless car will stay in the road because it doesn't have erroneous data coming into it, trying to drive it. So again, it's about fundamentals, getting the data fundamentals right first and be able to build on top of that. But DAMA, so DAMA primarily, like I said at the beginning, focuses on that fundamental data management capability, having that in place, being good at that, so you can leverage it in with these new technologies coming in.
Thanks, David. The next question is from Todd. So Todd is asking, is there a logical order to approach implementing data management knowledge areas? Where should we start? What's first and what follows?
Oh, Todd, thanks for that. So it depends, I think, is probably the best answer on that. Part of me says that because data governance is recognized as the kingpin in managing data and the processes around it, it's probably one of the first things that you at least have to get your head around. From there, it depends on your organization. If you're really hurting in the data warehouse space, then you probably want to concentrate on that. If you really have data quality issues, then you want to work in that. So by doing an assessment, a maturity assessment of your data management capabilities will also help you identify what areas you might be lacking in. So one of the chapters in the DMBOK is actually describing the data management maturity assessment process in there. So no, there's no set recipe for organizations, just like there's no set recipe on how chief data officers are ending up in organizations. It's more important that we're doing data management than in the first place, rather than who's doing it or in what order.
Thank you, David. We'll just take the last three questions, which are already there in Q&A. So guys and girls, please, you should use the question and answer because it's not easy to track anything that goes on in chat. So the next question is from Kathy. Kathy would like to know, would you consider data models and the data dictionary to be part of metadata management?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So the metadata management concept and the practice in itself, understanding that is one thing, but actually practicing it in data modeling is happening all the time. So when you're trying to understand what is this concept, like what's a person and what are all the attributes that are describing the person, we're talking data and metadata and all the different types of metadata. Absolutely. So, and data dictionary. So the data dictionary, true, everything that's in the metadata repository is going to be having definitions behind it, but not everything ends up in the dictionary. So that's probably a little delineation from it all. And personally, the way I sort of look at it is, again, and using terminology, the glossary, the terms you find in the glossary tends to be around the conceptual models. The common vocabulary is this logical system view about how do you get agreement on what we're talking about amongst the designers. And then the actual data dictionary is that physical implementation of what did you actually call that birth date field? Oh yeah, it was XYZ. Why you called it that, who knows? But again, it's recognizing those different levels of abstraction and using the right terms to describe each one of those.
Thanks, David. The next question is from Gauri. So Gauri is asking, can we please have any sessions on how to write a business case for enterprise information management? A lot of data management initiatives cannot be measured explicitly. So this is more of a observation, which I think, Gauri, what I will say is that please get in touch with David and he can answer that offline.
Can I just add,
Yeah.
Varun, can I just add,
Yes,
sorry,
please.
John from Brisbane here. The next Brisbane branch meeting, which is going to be a Zoom session like this, is going to explore this issue explicitly. So Gauri, look out for the invitation to the next Brisbane branch meeting, and we're going to have an open discussion about this particular issue.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's a better thing to do than asking me on that one.
Yeah, thanks, John, and Gauri. Hopefully, you attend the session from Brisbane. The last question is from Dimitar. For holistic systems thinking, effective data share enablement is essential. How are the Australian government institution regulators creating data enablement frameworks with the help from DAMA? Same for international collaboration.
Je ne sais pas, mon ami. It's like if the government is not talking to DAMA directly as an association, but probably more of its members individually, depending on the engagement they have. But no, I don't think I can really answer that question, how they're doing it.
Yeah, I can add a couple of points that, a lot of the government organizations, I'm myself part of the government, they are members of DAMA and they use DAMA as a reference framework when they are developing their various, data interoperability frameworks and the various frameworks. And a lot of work is happening in Canberra as well, where the federal government is collaborating with our counterparts in Canberra to help mature their frameworks as well. And there are opportunities where DAMA is invited to provide feedback either as members or as individuals who are very active in DAMA. And yes, we all collaborate. It's a joint effort to ensure that the practice of data management is actually assisting the Australian government help realize its outcomes. And we got a comment from Runya Raro. It's same for us in federal government. So thank you for supporting what we are saying. Thank you.
Thanks for picking that one up there, Varun.
Yeah, thank you.
Collaboration.
Yes. So thank you everyone for coming to this session, and thanks David once again for having such a wonderful presentation. Very interesting, a novel way of presenting, as someone had commented as well. So once again, thanks everyone for attending, and thanks David, and see you in our next session. Please go to dama.org.au, and if you're not a member, look at the benefits that you will get from becoming a member, and also try and see if you can attend the other sessions. And at the same time, I will also like to thank Mitzi, who has been here as a representative of DAMA Sydney, and she's the one who has been helping us in organizing all this. So thank you, everyone, once again, and talk to you next time. Bye.
Thanks very much. Stay safe, people.